So let's go over here and got a couple of tools stacked on top of each other here. There we go. Got a plane. Now, right off the bat, I'll tell you, you can tell this is not medieval simply because it has a metal body. Metal body planes are a product of the Industrial Revolution. There's just no workaround for that. Traditional planes are wood-bodied, or traditional medieval planes are wood-bodied, and carpenters and woodworkers and shipwrights and so forth traditionally had 2 or 3 different planes with jointers that do much more precise woodworking. We'll have 4 or 5, sometimes 6 planes, some of them very, very long for precision smoothing. This is how you smoothed wood. Sandpaper was invented in the I think it was the 1960s, might be 50s, something by DuPont. Wood was smoothed with the blade of a plane. If you know how to adjust these, you can shave the you can produce shavings off a hardwood thin enough that you can hold them up and see through them. That is the type of control a proper plane will give you. Make no mistake about it, this is not a proper plane. This was a $20 investment that I am now desperately trying to replace with something that is halfway capable. I've got one on order, but this one still works. It does what I need it to do, but I want a better one. There's a lot to be said about planes. There's a lot to be said about how to maintain them, how to set them up for proper use, how to set them up for proper controlled cuts. They're an invaluable tool. Any woodworker of any quality who does any work with wood really should have these, because this is how you got some of your precise measurements. This is how you smoothed your boards. This is, there just is no substitute. A plane is one of the cornerstones of woodworking, no matter what grade of woodworking you're doing. So, a gauge. Now, this particular one, it's kind of a multi-purpose gauge, but if you look very closely, you will see it has a point there, and there are 2 points here on the other side. And they are adjustable. I can move these points around as well as I can move this, this stop or this fence around. Now what this is designed to do is, if I need to mark a line down a board that is a fixed distance in, I can set it on this gauge. You know, suppose I want a nice wide set. I can lock it in, then I hold this against a clean edge, which I know is straight, and this will scribe, this will cut a precise groove into the board, which I can then use to guide chisels. I can use it to guide a saw. I can use it to guide certain types of planes to cut a groove. But this is the marking tool that you use to start that process. Now, if you're wondering where I got this from, again, Harbor Freight, $8. And I'm not bragging, but I want people to understand this is not thousands of dollars. This is hundreds of dollars accumulated over a couple of months. But it started by finding tools that were serviceable, that worked, and that were not expensive. And Harbor Freight offers that. Now here's another tool. Oh, God, beautiful. Wing dividers. They go pretty wide. I want to say that's 18 inches right there. And they have a locking nut to hold them in place. We know these existed in Greece. We've got record of it. And there actually is a lot you can use these for. There's a whole bunch of science behind using them. You can use them to bisect or even trisect distances. You can use them to find, if I can find a 90-degree angle, like with my square, I can use this to find a 45-degree angle, maybe even a 30. I mean, I know I can do it for a 30 as well. You'll notice this has a little mount on here that'll let you use it with a pencil. No, They didn't have pencils in period, but we know they had writing implements, and we know they had some tools very similar to this that would hold certain writing implements. But even when they didn't, the tip on these, you can see right there, the tip right there is a very fine point. This will scratch a very clean mark in even hardwood. I know because I've done it. Now, this, if you look, is a Spokeshave. Now remember we talked about the draw knife, correct? Spokeshave does the exact same thing on a much more controlled scale. Now like I said, with the draw knife, you control how much wood you're cutting by tapering the pitch of the blade. This, as you can see, has an adjustable iron in it, and there's a little wing nut there that lets me adjust it. Historically, and these were very, very late period. You see these right in the 1560s, 1570s, from what I read. They would have this iron, and there wouldn't be a screw, there would be a block, there'd be a wedge, just like you'd use a wedge to hold your iron in on your chisel. But the same base principle, that lets you adjust how deep your iron is, and you can take very, very shallow cuts with this. I use this to do some finishing cuts on those handles, by the way, for the saw. And as you can see, I got really, really good results. What started off as a very blocky shape, cleaned up very quickly with this. This is a knife. It's exactly what it is. This is just a cheap, old, former kitchen paring knife, which if you look at the historical record, woodworkers kept just a little knife in their thing. Sometimes for cutting rope, sometimes it was for cutting fabric, sometimes it was for cleaning out the edge of woodwork. I mean, nothing wrong with having a good knife. Right here I have if I can get it out, there it is, a ruler. And this is just a typical wooden school ruler. I'm not even trying for period with this, I just need something with consistent inch marks on it. The record is very clear that they did in fact have rulers for measuring. Now here's another tool that's very straightforward. An awl. And that's, I don't know if you can see the detail in there, but that's a very, very sharp head. This particular one actually was intended for leather work. Works just fine on wood. Get your wood lined up. If you want a specific point to mark, use this. And you use this to prep for drilling or to mark an edge where you're going to start laying down a cut line or anything like that. This is one of your marking tools, good old-fashioned awl. And again, not very fancy. This I bought this at the fabric section of Walmart for like $4. Again, these tools work just fine. You do not need to pull out your credit card and write hundreds of dollars, because you can buy an awl for $50 or $60, but this one does everything I ever needed it to. Now, another little tidbit for you. This is a striking knife. If you look on the back edge, you'll notice this is all black, and here you can see the edge clearly marked because it's got a bevel on it. That's because all of the bevel for it goes this way. Now remember how I told you we would strike lines on wood? Well, pencils, they did exist. We know there were writing implements, but there are plenty of times in history where pencils and pens and writing implements just weren't practical or weren't available to woodworkers. They used knives. Now this is a dedicated striking knife, but I know plenty of traditional woodworkers that pull out their pocket knife and will use that to strike a line. And when you lay up your line, figure out where you want it, you go, it'll leave a nice clean cut that's perfectly visible. It's a great guideline for laying out a knife wall or starting a saw cut or all of that. I mean, any sharp edge will work. I decided to invest in getting a dedicated striking knife. And what it's designed to do is this edge has, like I said, the bevel, and this back edge, you just sit it right up against whatever your guideline is, whether it's a square or your ruler or some other straight edge, and you draw a nice clean line, and this is how you marked. So let me rearrange this for a minute here. Now before we dig any deeper, I want to show you something. Here's another tool that's very, very common in woodworking. A hatchet. I know, you're going, wait a minute, you're here to shape lumber, you don't cut the tree down. You're right, I don't. There are whole treatises on using a hatchet, and it's not just for cutting down trees. Hatchets are used in even fine woodworking. This edge is, I filed this edge, trust me, I know how sharp it is. You can use hatchets. First of all, the back end is great for striking. You can use this to knock out blocks of wood. You know, if you've cut the relief cuts, you can use this to knock out scrap that you need cleared out of a cutaway. You can use this for rough carpentry. You can use this to tap stuff into place. It's a hammer when you don't want to waste time grabbing a mallet. This edge is actually very good at shaping. It's also very good at splitting. Like if I need to cut a board into 3 pieces, you know, like I need three sticks for legs of something. I can take this, I can line it up exactly where I want the cut so it'll split the grain, and I can put it down. I can take my mallet or just take a chunk of wood and go BAM! Now I'm not wasting 20 minutes making 3 cuts. Smack! And it'll do it. I've done it. I've gone outside with some really nice grained pine and poplar, and this'll split it. You'll get some nice cuts. If you got to round a corner off, this will do it. This will get you 90% of the way there, so all that's left is cleanup with your file. I've been really impressed with how useful a good hatchet is. So if you want to do classic traditional woodworking, I highly recommend you invest in getting an axe. And again, this wasn't the cheapest axe out there, but I want to say $14 or $15. It's perfectly serviceable. It works perfectly well. And while it is not period, it is not ultra modern. This will fit just fine at any SCA woodworking shop, in my opinion. Now the absolute other end of this conversation. Let me put this axe away. Is here a mallet. And if you can see, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there is a bit of a circle in here. That's from all the hits I've landed on so far. I've been using this one for a while now and starting to develop recess on there from all the hits. And what do I use the mallet for? A lot of things. I use the mallet for my chisels, predominantly. They're each getting pretty heavily pounded as it's designed to be. But I also use it, like I use the mallet with a piece of scrap wood to guard it. The mallet's how I set these handles in place. You use it to smack boards into place. The mallet is your mover. It will move stuff. And I have used the mallet on the back of that hatchet if I'm using it as a wedge. You know. Good mallet, and there's more to it than just a stick handle. If you look at this handle, there is a taper. It flares out here, so I know instantly where the end of the handle is. I know where it's gripping, so if I'm needing a full force impact, I can land it. My knuckles right up and hit right there, so I can get in if I'm doing very, very controlled hits for my for detailed chisel work, or if I'm rounding or shaping. This will do it. I'm very, very happy with this. This one, I shopped around. I got to admit, mallets are a little more scarce. If you wanted to get a mallet, I would go online, and I would be prepared to part with about $20. Much more than $20, and you'd better have a testimonial swearing how good it is, because I would not pay too much more for this. I mean, it's good, but I'm not retiring off of this, so I'm not going to drop a huge amount of money.